Hello and welcome to the How to Travel Vegan podcast. I'm your host, Tom Simak, and today we're interviewing Grigoria Kritsotelis. Alrighty, so today's episode is going to be really different to what the usual episodes are, I guess. We're going to touch on spirituality for the first time. Now, G is an amazing person to describe a lot of these spiritual concepts, and there's going to be a lot of, I guess, branches that come out from each topic we'll dive into, but there's going to be a lot of talk of energy and vibration and alignment. We are going to dig into a lot of these topics quite in depth. Now, G is a mindset coach, spiritual teacher, and speaker. So she's got a lot of experience in the field, and I really feel like this is the right person to have a conversation with, especially for those who maybe don't really know what spirituality is or how to incorporate that in their life, but also someone who's at that level where they need to take that next step forward and aligning yourself to make sure you're always just heading straight ahead in the right direction. We are going to cover a whole bunch of different topics, including how plant foods, exercise, and meditation, how that affects your vibration, your mood, how to align yourself, how to even go from a state of anger to gratitude. And there's a lot of really good gems in here that I hope a lot of you can take, even just one thing. And if you don't, I hope you at least enjoy the conversation and enjoy the ride. Hello, G. Welcome to the How to Travel Vegan podcast. How are you going this afternoon?
I am so good. Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here.
That's awesome. And for those looking on YouTube, she has the widest smile on her face. It's awesome to see. Always. Now, to start off, there's so much I want to get into, especially with the spirituality side of things, which can be so many facets to so many different people because it's such a broad topic. But can you just start us on with a 1 to 2 minute on who you are and maybe why you went vegan as well?
Okay. This is such an exciting topic for me because often when I'm interviewed for podcasts or I have conversations with people, generally speaking, it's not vegan oriented. So this is really, really exciting to me because it is basically who I am. You know, it is a part of an identity and I can talk about identity later and how we shouldn't fixate on identities. However, it is a part of my lifestyle and who I am. So my name is Grigoria, but everyone calls me G, and I am a mindset coach and spiritual teacher. And I basically got into this field of work a number of years ago. Before this, I was a marketing consultant. I ran an agency with a friend of mine and we were doing really well. And as we were reaching one of our peaks, I just felt this call to do the deeper work. And I was like, it's so superficial. It's artificial work, right? I'm telling people how they should make more money, right? If they follow this checklist, this is what you should do. And I just felt this disconnect between carbon copies, right? And it's just like, I need something deeper than that. I need something that's more connected. And I've always been quite spiritual, and I use that word liberally because I think that it's highly personal and it's open to interpretation. But for what it means to me, I've been brought up, in a very open household where I was free to explore what spirituality meant to me and what it looked like and how it connected to me. And when I refer to spirituality, for those of you who may be new to this topic, it's more the connection to something beyond the physical experience, right? That's the easiest way to summarize it. So it doesn't have to be God. And I use the word God, but God, universe, angels, source energy, infinite intelligence, higher self, whatever your truth is, it really doesn't matter. You know, like Jake Juicy has this quote that says, you don't get wet by the word water. And I really love that because it really doesn't matter how you interpret something beyond you. It's the fact that you feel connected to it. And that you're not just here to live a three-dimensional experience. And for those watching this, the fact that you're vegan tells me already you are innately connected to something beyond your three-dimensional experience because you feel empathy and connection towards other sentient beings. So already I know that you fit into this world, whether you've ever identified with it or not. So my vegan journey happened. I'm celebrating next month my 4-year vegan anniversary. So I'm super excited. First of July, we celebrate with my sister. We both went vegan on the same day. And basically, I'm Greek my background is Greek. I'm Aussie, but my background is Greek and, you know, Greek Orthodoxy, although I don't identify with a religion anymore, but Greek Orthodoxy, you fast before Easter every year. So you have a 40-day fast. Now, for those who are unfamiliar completely, you basically go vegan for 40 days. And you're also supposed to not say bad things and not swear and, you know, be pure, cleanse your body and your soul. And it often had me reflecting, because I would do it every year. And I was like, why would God ask me to stop consuming animal products, right? Like, why would God ask that of us? Why is it during those 40 days that you are at your purest, right? And I remember we fasted for 40 days, and then we went back to eating a little bit of meat again. And I was like, this doesn't feel right, right? Like there's this huge, like, it's like I had this moment of awakening when it came to a connection between me and animals. Now, preceding that 40-day fast, my sister and I were very into fitness. So we had already eliminated dairy. We were only really eating 2 types of meat, right? And when I use quotation marks because I'm including fish in that, but I had already eliminated so many things. I've never been into eggs. I had never eaten eggs. It just didn't sit right with me. And then after that 40-day period and we started eating meat again, I was like, this doesn't feel right. And she was like, this doesn't feel right. I was like, why would we go back to eating meat? So initially, the first initial thought was preceding it. It was about health. Then during my 40-day fast, I was like, hold on. It was my dog. My dog passed last year, which was devastating to me. But my dog came up to me and he sat with me and he laughed. And like, you know, dogs communicate. You can feel their energy. They know you. Totally. They know who you are. They send you love. And I was like, hold on. If my dog can feel all of these feelings, can recognize me, can sense when I'm in pain, that means every animal on the planet can. Who the hell am I to take their life away from them for 5 minutes in my mouth? That makes no sense. I'm literally taking away their entire life for one meal. That makes no sense to me. And I was like, that's it. We're not eating. We're going vegan. So literally we went cold turkey. So it was like overnight, never eating meat again. I've never touched meat again, never touched any dairy again. I've had, I think, 2 accidents and someone's fed me meals that have had dairy. Obviously it happens to all of us and you can be forgiving in that regard, but intentionally never. And I have no desire to, because to me, it was just like, this feels like truth. And what you'll notice from our conversation today, we'll talk about spirituality and intuition and how intuitively I felt that eating meat and dairy was wrong and not eating it felt so good to me. It felt like alignment with the universe. And I'm not saying that my truth is the truth. And that's important to recognize. I'm not saying that you have to be vegan. I'm not saying that you have to do what I do because I am superior to you in my knowledge. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that when I looked within me, it was very clear that meat and dairy consumption was not part of the truth for me, right? And I feel that if everyone were to connect with themselves intuitively, they would probably feel the same thing.
All right. There you go. Let's get right into the deep end here. You mentioned intuition a few times, and what I find really fascinating, I mean, coming from a corporate background, and a lot of us have corporate backgrounds like yourself, and we look at business and then spirituality. What I find fascinating is things you can learn in business, you can apply to spirituality, in my opinion, and vice versa. Even Simon Sinek talks about it in his book, Start With Why. He says the biggest mistake entrepreneurs always say they make is that they didn't listen to their gut enough. So you touched on intuition. Yeah. What does that mean? What is that?
I love this topic. All right. So to me, everything should be an intuitive decision. Now, what does that mean? For someone who doesn't understand intuition whatsoever, you said the words, it's the gut feeling. The gut feeling is the God feeling, right? Quote. So when you just it's like when you walk in a room and all of a sudden you're just like, something doesn't feel right. Yeah, I just feel some bad juju from this room. That is your gut talking. That's instinctual. That's not your head. That's not your logic. That is not your conscious mind, which is controlled by the frontal lobe. That's no experiential evidence, right? Because nothing in the room is wrong. That's not your heart, because your heart tends to be on the lighter side. Your heart tends to be like, everyone is loving and there's so much love here and purity. But your gut, something in your gut is like, this doesn't feel right. And why I think often it's referred to as gut as well is because you will feel the physical proof within your gut. Your stomach will start to clench. You will want, your whole body will want to clench over. You have sometimes a gag reflex even, where your whole body is rejecting the experience, because our bodies are highly intuitive. What that means is they're highly connected to the spiritual part of us, because although we're experiencing this physical experience in the three-dimensional plane, we are much more infinity, I should say, which is spirit, than we are physical. We're just having this temporary experience, right? But the part of us that is infinite spirit is ever present, okay? Which means that it sees the bigger picture. It sees the overall part. It is my best metaphor for this is, imagine us, the physical self, in the valley, okay? Whereas the higher self, the one that's connected to source being God, universe, angels, is at the peak of the mountain. Now, when you're at the peak of the mountain, can you not see all the paths? You can see where you were before, where you are now, what is to come, all the mountains, all the rocks, all the rivers, all the grizzly bears, everything, okay? So if I'm in the valley, would it not be wise to silence the internal chatter just for a minute and say, higher self that's at the peak of the mountain, direct me where to go? All right. And people are like, but I don't hear a voice. It's not a voice. It's a feeling, right? It's an intuitive feeling. It's a nudge that directs you which way to go. The same way as when you walk into a room and you feel bad juju, or sometimes you meet a person and you're just like, I know this person. I feel this connection to them. Something intuitively binds you together, right? It is some connection that is unexplainable. It's why sometimes you meet someone and you instantly connect and become lifelong friends, and then other people you don't. It doesn't make that person any less of a person or not a great person. It's just this unspeakable, unexplainable connection. And that's the thing about intuition. So many people try to write a script on how to describe it, and it's not about describing intuition as much as it is about feeling your intuition. It's just an innate feeling. And the way you connect to that innate feeling is through silencing of the conscious mind. So every time you're in there and you're processing, your mind is processing, you're not connected to your intuition. All right. Absolutely. You need to be able to silence and be the observer of the thought, not the thought itself. We're so caught up in the hustle bustle, right? Literally, we're a world of people running on a treadmill, right? I'm asking you to get off the treadmill for 5 minutes and just take a walk. Just take a slow walk. And when you are on that slow walk, all of a sudden you're just like, oh, I should take this path. Even sometimes, and this is why people deny their intuition, because the intuition that's at the peak of the mountain will often say to you, go through that mountain, and you will end up with a cut knee, bruises, you almost drowned in the river, and you'll be like, I'm never listening to my gut again because my gut got me hurt. But the gut foresaw that beyond the mountain is 10 new paths that you wouldn't have been able to access if you weren't to go through that experience, right?
It's always hard to tell and play the game of psychic, and you never know why things happen to you. I guess it's easier in a lot of ways to just assume this thing happened for you because you wouldn't know any better. And I want to touch on the fact that you said you don't know how to put it to words and it's a feeling, and there's an easy way to describe, I guess, in a way logically, even as logical as this can get, is there's two parts of your brain. There's the limbics and there's neocortex, right? And when you're looking at like your intuition, a lot of it's your limbic brain. So it's all emotions. Now, the problem with that, which sucks, is your limbic brain has no language capacity, which means it cannot describe things. And so you go to your neocortex that tries to describe things, but it's not emotional. So that's always like why they do that test, like quick questions like blue or red. And when you're deciding between two things, like you want a Mac or your Windows, you're blue or red, do you like this or that? And then you'll end up saying with emotion what the thing is. So I like how you touched on that. It's real. And that's, I guess, the most, without going the road of spirituality, the easiest way to think of it is we know that the limbic brain, which follows the intuition, the gut feelings, we can't bring that to words. So sometimes, and it's hard for us because we always want to know what is this?
Absolutely.
We're curious
we want to be able
creatures.
to communicate. Absolutely. And the way I describe it, and I love what you're saying, but for those who aren't necessarily science oriented, is I always describe it as when I'm trying to interpret energy, imagine you're watching a French film. Now, I did French until year 11, okay? So I may be able to translate 2 or 3 lines in the film. Does that mean that I understand the entire film? Does that mean I understand the context of the entire film? And even if I were to interpret the entire film, my interpretation might not be 100% accurate. And imagine I'm then trying to interpret something that isn't words. right? Is energy, is feeling, is emotion, is something beyond what's explainable. My interpretation is going to be like not perfect. And I think that that's where we can also be forgiving. And also, it also explains why there are so many interpretations of the truth. And you look at religions, for example, organized religion, as well as spiritual teachers, and why so many people have somewhat crossover, and yet it's not unanimous, okay? Because this is my personal interpretation. And I recognize that my interpretation is also affected by my personal human experience. So the preconceived thoughts that I have, my conditioned beliefs, my environment, my upbringing, everything like that will also affect my interpretation. So once we are aware of that, we're much more forgiving on the infinite amounts of interpretations, and we need to acknowledge that my truth is not the truth. It is just an interpretation of the truth to the best of my ability.
And I want to touch on something that you talked about with the mountain and these different paths, and then you have that experience where you're cut, and then you're like, I'm never going to follow this intuitive feeling again. What do you think happens to like our mind, body, spirit when we then say to our intuition, like, no, we're not going to follow you again? Like, what path is that then taking?
Okay, so here's the thing. Your intuition, the higher self, source, energy, God, whatever you want, is constantly talking to you. It's never not talking to you. A lot of people say, I don't hear God, or what do I do to connect to God? You don't need to try to connect. It's an infinite connection, because I am of God, and to God I shall return. I am of love, and to love I shall return. Therefore, I am an expression of that. I'm an individualization of that. Think of a wave as an individualization of the ocean. It's never separate from the ocean. It can identify as its own entity, but it's still always connected to the ocean. So when one wave moves, the entire ocean moves with it, right? So I am never disconnected, but I can choose through my free will, okay, and this is incredibly important. Free will allows us to deny the connection. So you can choose to deny the connection, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to still be successful or happy or in loving relationships, but it will be harder, okay? Because imagine right now I have a glass of water, and imagine this was a glass of water, and I have a cork, and I'm trying to push that cork down. That is me resisting. That is me denying. That is me trying. That is me pushing. That is me listening to all of the conditioned beliefs, to my friend telling me I'm not good enough, to my parents imposing their expectations on me, to whatever, right? As soon as I move my finger away, what happens to the cork?
Gets lifted up.
Right, it bounces straight back up. I didn't need to pull it up. I didn't need to do anything. All I did was stop offering resistance. The moment you stop offering resistance, it feels better. That doesn't mean that I couldn't physically have pulled it up. I could have, but that's trying, right? That is what not tapping into intuition does. It makes it harder. Intuition, an Abraham Hicks quote, is essentially following the path of least resistance. It just allows you to live a more aligned life. Things will feel softer. They won't feel as heavy. A lot of the times people are trying so hard, and the pressure weighs down on them. And then what happens is that evokes stress, the stress hormone, which then creates dis-ease, disease, which are things like cancer and anxiety and depression and all of these other illnesses, which are valid and real and all of these things. And yet they're imposed by our stress hormone, right? We create them, we manifest them. So we can also reverse the dis-ease process by reconnecting with the ease, which is intuition, which is alignment to source energy.
Right. There's so much to unpack there. I want to take all the steps back to the beginning here. What is spirituality for those? Like, what is, like, if I'm like, a lot of our spiritual journeys don't start till, bit down the track in life. But if I'm someone who, has heard of spirituality, and I maybe associate that with crystal dancing hippies, where is like the starting point on how, you can look into that and what that really even means as an individual sense? Like, what does it mean to be spiritual, I guess?
Okay. I love this question because you're simplifying it for the people that are watching this now. And I know for a lot of people, sometimes when I speak, people don't always connect, because I tend to, there's this term that I actually learned in marketing that's called self-reference criterion. It's where you teach as though people already know what you're talking about, right? And often teachers do this. They speak as though you already understand all the terminology. but most people don't, and that's fair. All right, so I have a 3-step process that I use. This is the simplest method that anyone on the planet can basically duplicate, okay? Number 1 is self-awareness. Self-awareness is being aware of self. Now, the difference between 1 density, 2 density, 3 density, or first density, second density, third density beings is that I am aware of self. Now, I'm going to use animals as an example. Animals have feelings and they have emotions and they have all of these things, right? However, when a deer is being chased by a lion in the jungle, okay, what happens? It runs. It turns on the stress hormone. It runs to get out of harm's way. As soon as it's out of harm's way, what does it do? It goes back to grazing in the paddock or like in the jungle or whatever, right? It doesn't sit there and reflect on, oh my God, I almost died. I need to be more careful next time. I need to whatever, because they don't have the same self-awareness that humans do, right? That doesn't deny them of feelings and emotions. It just means that humans have a next level of awareness of self, is that I am aware that I contemplate life, okay? I reflect on my past, on my future, on what's coming, on where I came from, on what's beyond. So being self-aware means I can then come from the position of the observer, all right? I can say, why am I thinking a thought? What led me to this thought, okay? Why do I have certain inclinations, biases, judgments? Even why do I like certain colors, foods, people, right? What led me to that? Because essentially when you're born, you have the ability to be anyone, right? Like, and I'm not talking about past lives here because it's way too woo-woo for this conversation and we can talk about that another time, right? But assume you come here with a blank canvas, okay? And every baby is born with the ability to learn every single language. But what happens is through exposure, for example, your brain then eliminates certain photonics. So, for example, some people, when learning French as an adult, find it really difficult because they can't say all the words. Or like I grew up Greek, so I can say words like sounds such as r and r. Whereas most people learning that language find it difficult because as a baby, your brain realized, well, you're not ever going to need this connection. So it basically deleted the connection, okay?
Use it or lose it.
So use it or lose it, right? But that's self-awareness. That's me being able to say, I'm observing the patterns. I'm observing my behavior and what led to that behavior. Once I'm self-aware, and only once I'm self-aware, I can then move towards alignment. So for example, let's say I have this self-sabotaging behavior in relationships where every time I get close to someone, I do something to push them away, okay? Through my self-awareness, I can observe that and be like, that doesn't make sense, right? Because it's sabotage. It doesn't feel good to me. This is intuition. So this is me saying it doesn't feel good. And if it doesn't feel good, it means that it's out of alignment. Something's not right here. What led me to that behavior? And then I look into my past and I'm like, oh, well, actually, I was always afraid to bring relationships home because one time my parents told me that you can't have boyfriends. Okay, so because of that, now all of a sudden I sabotage every time I get close to someone because of this child perception of an experience when I was young, right? So now that I'm aware of that, what feels better? How can I move towards alignment? That's step number 2. Only once you are aware. And the other thing about awareness is what leads to awareness is silencing. The more that you're like talk, you're not aware. You're in the experience. You're not the observer, right? You're not witnessing. You're in it. And when you're in it, it's like those who are stuck in a rip in the ocean. They're in it. Their only goal is to get out of it, right? They're not thinking what got me here, what led me here, how did I swim with, certain waves. But as an observer, I can be like, okay, I can understand the process. And once I'm there, I want to move towards alignment. What does alignment mean, right? Again, it's one of those fancy words that you hear all the time. Alignment essentially means feeling good, aligning with my natural state of well-being, okay? If something doesn't feel good, then it's out of alignment, all right? If you feel guilt, and this was a huge part of being vegan as well, I felt guilt for eating meat, which is my intuition telling me that it's not in alignment. Because if I was feeling guilt, how can it be my natural state of being? Yeah, because guilt is a low vibrational frequency. It is not my natural state of being. If I truly believe that I am of love, then only things that resonate with that frequency are in alignment with me. That doesn't deny the experience of contrast. That doesn't mean that you're not going to feel sad and angry and frustrated and guilty. It just means that those experiences of contrast allow you to observe them and then move out of them, not fixate on them, and move out of them towards alignment. And that's what a lot of people do. They fixate on the low vibrational frequencies, on the negative feelings, and they try to understand the feeling. And they're like, I'm feeling guilty all the time and I'm sad. And then they go see therapists and they seek out coaches like me and they try to understand. The first thing I do with clients is like, okay, let's observe the feeling. I've observed it now. That's self-awareness. But now let's move towards alignment. Let's get out of that feeling. We don't need to fixate and be in it. I now need to move out of alignment. Why so many people go vegan? Because they realize they feel guilty when they eat the meat and they don't want to be in that feeling. What can you do? I can use my conscious awareness to move away from it. Okay? And I move out of the experience. The easy solution in that case is to stop eating meat and dairy and to educate yourself and to learn and to do all these things. Then there's a step 3. Once I'm self-aware, once I've moved towards intuition, moved towards better feeling thoughts, better feeling behaviors, I can then come to my own realization. I can realize my connection. Because when I'm in harmony, when I'm in alignment, when I've started to silence the mind, I then have the ability to connect to more. Think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is not Illuminati symbolism. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? At the bottom, you have your basic needs. You have your physiological needs. You have food, water, shelter. Beyond that, you're not looking for self-actualization. You're not looking for relationships. You literally just want to find food, water, and shelter, okay? Once you've reached beyond that, you can then start to deepen your connection to a spiritual practice, to spirituality. It's also why us in this world, our basic needs aren't food, water, and shelter, because most of us are privy to them, okay? Which means that we then have the ability to connect to more, to build relationships, to understand people, to want to seek something beyond ourselves, okay? So the realization then is, okay, if I am not just this 3-dimensional experience, I'm beyond that, I'm self-aware, I've moved towards alignment, I can now come to the realization of all that I am. And if I am of God, of love, of the divine, that means that I can harness that power here in this world, right? It means that I can do something beyond what I thought was capable. It also means that I'm connected to infinite possibilities and probabilities. And that then leans towards the laws of the universe, things like the law of attraction and the law of divine oneness and the law of polarity and all of those things, which is, going a little bit deeper. But a spiritual practice is whatever you decide it to be. For some people, that involves yoga and meditation. For others, it involves dancing and being a hippie, right? For others,
Totally.
It involves, plant medicine. And for others, it involves literally doing what I do, where I just teach people about a spiritual connection and what that looks like. There is no definitive way to be spiritual, and yet embodying spirituality means that I am connected to something beyond me, okay? But it's open to interpretation.
Absolutely. And that's like a really big 101, but the thing I want to drive home, and I very much will assume you'll agree, is spirituality. Like, I'm just looking at the definition so we can really nail it down, is the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. And that could be, and looking at that esoterically, it's just wellness, really. And that for you could be, start with a 5-minute meditation. And meditation's come up so much in the last few episodes, but it could be meditation. Part of you going vegan and aligning yourself with your values could be a form of you caring for your spiritual self. And that's something I actually wanted to dive to a little bit as well, because veganism and all the foods we put in our body, and a lot of the reason people do go plant-based is because that whole your body is a temple mentality where everything that goes in, and that doesn't have to be food. That also means like the books you're reading, the things you're listening to, the friends you're hanging out with, all that's getting internalized by your eyes, your ears, all of that. But how does, I guess we all know, how does vegan foods affect your body, or plant foods? And this is going to go more into the realm of vibration. And I don't want to touch on vibration too much because that's a whole other
Yeah.
huge topic. We all know inherently, scientifically speaking, spiritually, we're all just small little vibrations of bacteria and really small microbes, atom vibrating together or making this whole experience. But how does plant foods affect that?
So I'm writing a book right now. Actually, I finished writing the book. It's called God is Me. And in the book, I actually touch on this. I talk about a concept that I channel during meditation called energy transference. Now, again, we won't touch on vibration necessarily as opposed to energy. And so imagine right now that you have a piece of, I don't know, go buy a packet of chips, okay? Think of the production of that packet of chips, okay? So think of the people that had to plant the seeds to grow the potatoes, to then harvest them. So you had the pickers, you had the people washing them, you had the production line, you had the people creating the machine to chop them into slices, you had the people baking, you had the people packaging, designing the packaging, touching, right? So imagine that the farmer planting the seeds is angry that day, right? He's not in a good mood and he's planting your seeds. Is he not transferring his energy into that? Because if we're all one energy, we come from the one energy source. Am I not then connected to everything? It's like when you walk into a room and you're in a shitty mood, then everyone in that room becomes shitty because they feel your energy. Whereas if I walk into a room with a huge smile on my face and I'm happy and alive, people feel that, right? So why wouldn't food be the same? It's just energy transference. Okay. So all of a sudden he's angry. Now the chemist that's designing the formula for, the glue on the packet or whatever, she had a fight with her daughter that morning, okay? And she's in a mood. So all of a sudden she's transferring her energy into the production process. So then I take this packet of chips that I went to the supermarket to buy, that the shelf guy, had a car accident on the way to the supermarket, on the way to his shift that day, and all of a sudden he's transferred as he's packing the product. I've opened this packet, and because it's so highly processed, I'm taking all of that in. Now add another layer. Imagine the animal, not just the production process, but now I have transferred the energy from that animal into my experience, because that animal has had a life of suffering, has been in pain, has had confinement, has not been able to move, has felt emotions. Okay, so imagine now, not just along with the production process that follows once the animal has been killed, but now the life itself is filled with all of these low vibrational frequencies. So I am now transferring that energy into my body as I eat it. Okay, so the less processed, the better. I used to follow a 1 ingredient rule. All right, so the less the ingredients, the better it is, right? So I'm talking fruits and vegetables, because they have not been touched by many people. There is less possibility for energy transference. And not just that, they are more likely to be in their original format. Now, we know that things are genetically modified, and we know that they're sprayed with pesticides, and we're very aware of that. And yet eating an apple is still better than eating a chocolate bar, okay? You don't need to be a rocket science. Even a vegan chocolate bar, right? An apple will still be better because it's being touched by less people. It's more pure in its form. So therefore, when I eat it, it raises my vibration. There's a reason, like I do 2 fast days a week, right? So today's one of my fast days where I don't eat anything. So it's a water fast, right? And you are much clearer. There is biblical evidence as well, that it says it in Bibles, in the Quran, in lots of other religious texts, and even gurus and monks will say the same. When you fast, you're a clearer channel, because your body doesn't have to digest, doesn't have to process, doesn't have to take in this energy. So imagine when I'm eating vegan food, my body is having to do so much less work to digest, okay? So I therefore am a clearer channel and more able to connect to my intuition, because I don't have all of this toxicity moving through my body, right? I don't have all of these low energies and frequencies moving through my body. Another huge reason that supported my veganism, because I realized that I'm a clearer channel. I'm more connected to source because I don't have toxic energy circulating through my body. I'm eating high vibrational foods. And when I eat high vibrational foods, I become that food. You are what you eat, right? And think about what we originally said about the gut feeling. Intuition is the gut feeling. Where does your food digest? In your gut, right? So if my gut is clogged up, filled with toxins, it's also why I do enemas. I do enemas every day. I do a coffee enema once a week. It's
What's an
because I
enema?
want
Did
to
you say
clear
enema?
an enema,
What's
right?
that?
Where you have a tube that goes up your butt, all right? And your guts fill with water, and then you basically excrete everything.
Oh, yes,
And
I've
that
heard of this. Okay, is
cleans
that what it's called?
all the bacteria from your colon, okay? Because I don't want any old bad juju clogged up in my gut, which then denies me my connection to my intuition. I want to be a clear channel. I want to make sure that not only am I digesting food, because I'm not perfect, I eat sugar, all right? I have junk food sometimes, vegan junk food, of course, but I don't deny myself of those experiences. I do them, but I'm very aware through my self-awareness that they are not high vibrational foods. Now, obviously, they're much better than eating animal byproducts, because those animal byproducts and animal products have also the emotion attached. Okay, I don't want that experience at all. But still, eating sugar and highly processed foods are not good for us either. All right, it touches too many hands, and it doesn't have any nutritional property. But the flip side to that is you're doing it for your soul. When I eat my chocolate bar and my ice cream, sometimes my soul is calling for it, and that's okay. But I'm aware that the majority of my diet needs to be fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, things that are going to nourish my soul, nourish my body, and allow me to perform at peak. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. I mean, it comes into like so many different forms. And I think when you consume something, I think it's super important with a lot of what you touched on, like the energetic, the emotional connection, and all the hands and the processing that it had to go through. But also when we're talking about our gut and how it leads our intuition, it's like, yes, we are what we eat. But another way to look at it is we are what our gut microbes eat. And a lot of our digestion is actually done in there. So when you're eating an apple that has a million bacteria on there that all looks after your gut, and then your gut's then more clear, you can think more clearly, and then easily avoid this brain fog that a lot of the time stops us from reaching our highest value or what we want to be in ourselves. But I want to change gear again now. When we were talking about self-awareness a little bit back with the steps to spirituality, I want to talk about how to get that, because not a lot of people do. And it's very hard because we have these emotions, whether I'm not going to label them positive or negative. They're just all emotions. And we have an argument with our partner, and we then react with anger because of the toxic energy. Now, we might not be aware of why we're angry. How can you then you're like, oh man, I'm so angry because she said this, but inherently, it's because you have some sort of insecurity inside. How do you get that self-awareness? And you could use that relating to your partner or related to a boss or a colleague or a friend, family, whatever.
All right. I have a process that it's an Abraham Hicks process, and it's one of my favorite processes to use because it works almost 100% of the time, right? So right now you're angry. You've just had a fight with your partner. They've said some mean things. You've said some mean things, and you've stormed out, and you're filled with rage and anger and frustration, even a bit of sadness and confusion and all of these feelings. I don't need you to go and be happy the next minute, because that's not realistic. It's me through spiritual elitism to tell you positive vibes, good vibes. Like, no, that's not reality. That is not the human experience. You are angry. You are filled with rage. You are frustrated. What is a better feeling thought? And what we do is we move up the emotional guidance system. So I'm filled with rage and frustration. I've just stormed out. I don't need to be happy, but I need to look for a better feeling thought. All right, I'm angry. I've just left the house. What's a better feeling thought? You know what? I'm in my car. I'm safe in my car. I can go for a drive and I can just be frustrated. Okay. That's a better feeling thought than rage. Frustration is better than rage. Okay. Okay. So now I'm driving for a while. I'm just really frustrated. And then I'm like, you know what? What's a better feeling thought than frustration? Well, you know what? I'm just a bit sad. I'm a bit sad that I had this argument with my partner because I love them, right? I'm a bit sad. That's a better feeling thought than frustration. Okay. So I'm driving along. I'm feeling a bit sad. And then I see a beach and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go sit on the beach to try and cool off a bit and try to whatever. So I sit on the beach and I'm like, I'm sad right now, but what's a better feeling thought than sadness? Well, you know what? I'm just a bit uneasy. I'm uneasy about this whole situation. It just doesn't feel good. All right. It just feels a bit off to me. That's a better feeling thought than sadness. And I'm sitting on the beach for a while, and then I see a little kid playing in the distance. I'm like, that's so cute. Do you know what I mean? And this kid's playing with their dad, and they have a little dog that they're throwing a ball at. And I was like, that's really cute. And I'm like, okay, so now's the perfect opportunity. What's a better feeling thought than the unease that I'm feeling? You know what? I'm neutral right now. I'm neutral. Yeah, I had this experience, but right now in this moment, I can appreciate the fact that I'm observing this beautiful relationship between a child, an animal, and a parent. Okay. So now, all of a sudden, I'm at the vibration of neutrality. I've been sitting there on the beach, and then all of a sudden, I notice a surfer that hits the wave, right? Like it's riding this cool wave. And I'm like, that is so cool. What's a better feeling thought? A better feeling thought is gratitude. You know what? I'm sitting here and I got the opportunity to see this guy who him riding the wave right now. Imagine what's going through his head. He's probably really excited that he hit that wave, right?
Seriously.
Like he is just like, I'm a mad dog. Like I just hit that wave and I'm riding, and he has no care in the world. He's not thinking about, his girlfriend at home or whatever. He's just riding that wave. And I'm like, all of a sudden I'm in the energy, the frequency, of gratitude. I'm like, okay, this feels all right. And then even if I take a moment to reflect on what happened in the morning, I'm now coming from it from a softer place because I'm not filled with rage. Okay. So I'm now filled with gratitude. I may still feel discord when I think about the experience, but I am lighter. See how I'm changing me? I'm not changing the experience. I'm changing me. Okay. So what's a better feeling thought? You know what? I'm going to get in my car because I know that communication is key and I love this person and I actually don't want us to have this discord and disconnect between us. So I'm going to drive home, and I am now in the frequency of optimism, okay, because I'm excited and I'm anticipating the fact that we're going to have a conversation that may end in a resolution, okay? I'm now driving home and I'm filled with optimism and I'm thinking of all the nice things I'm going to say and how much I love this person. And then I get home and I see their face and they're crying and just want to give me a hug. And all of a sudden, I'm in the frequency of love, okay? Because they've had that time for contemplation to assume that they've gone through the emotional scale as well, okay? So, and I'm not saying it always plays out like that. And that process may take days or weeks or months, okay? But all of a sudden, I'm now in the vibration of love. I've embraced. That's then where I can be the observer. Okay, I'm not asking you to be the observer when you're filled with rage, because that is not the time for that. It's like when the deer ran from the lion. That's not the time for contemplation. That's the time to run. All right, you run away from that damn lion. Okay, because that's when the stress hormone is on. We don't need to worry about self-awareness when we're filled with rage. What we do need to do is move out of that vibration. So we need to look for better feeling thoughts. And once we are then in the vibration of love, well-being, harmony, peace, okay, then I can be like, all right, now we can have a conversation from a place that's not emotional. What led to our argument? Okay, what led to our disagreement? I can observe my patterns and behaviors. I can observe my conditioned beliefs. I can observe my biases and my judgments, okay? And you can observe yours. So do you see the process? How when you're feeling the feelings, feel your feelings. Like when I have clients call me and they're crying and they're emotional, that's when we're reactive, okay? It's only when I'm on a call with a client and they're like, I had the best week this week. That's when we can be proactive and do more spiritual activities. That's when we manifest. That's when we connect to source. That's when we channel. That's when we do past life regressions. We don't do it when they're, upset and emotional about an experience. That's not when we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the biggest thing I kind of love is that step system of just getting one little bit better. Because I love this quote and I have no idea. You always quote the person, which is usually Abraham Hicks. So I have no idea where it's come from. And, if you search on the internet, quotes always come from like 100 sources.
Yeah.
But you can't be grateful and angry at the same time, which is something I always remember. And I think what's fascinating, if you mix those two strategies together, which is knowing you can't be grateful and angry at the same time, like, okay, cool. I'm angry. I want to be grateful because I know that you can't be both those things. And I don't want to feel angry anymore. I don't like this. I don't like this part of me. You can be like, just one more step and just one more step. And then that way you avoid the rabbit hole, which is jumping in and judging yourself and thinking you're not good enough and or pointing fingers or throwing your poison somewhere else. It's her or his fault or it's their fault or whatever it is. And I think that's a really cool strategy. And I don't think that has much to do with spirituality. Yes, it does self-awareness, but you can put this in any situation.
Absolutely.
Yet we have this really broad category of this is spiritual because you got that inner love that you're trying to align yourself to. So that's when we can relate. Spirituality is just looking after yourself and the people you love, which I find super fascinating. And on the topic of vibration, when we're just talking about what foods we eat affect us, how do you think, because I know you mentioned fasting, you based on your website, you exercise as well. How do you think exercise affects our vibration?
Okay. Because if you think of humans in their original form, they moved a lot, okay? They had to hunt for food, they had to harvest, they had to move, they had to walk, they didn't have vehicles and cars and whatever. So what happens with them is movement, emotion is energy in motion, okay? You said earlier on, we are all just little particles vibrating, okay, constantly vibrating. Now we see it and observe it as three-dimensional, but we're actually more empty space than we are physical, okay? So we are just in motion. Now what tends to happen in our life and the way society is today is we tend to be a lot more stagnant. We sit at our desks all day, we don't really move, then we lay down on our bed or on our couch, we don't really move, we're not active, we're not out in nature, we're not connected. So what happens to our emotions is they get trapped in our bodies and then they manifest into things like stomach ulcers or cramps or headaches or bruises or whatever other ailments, because the emotion has been trapped. It wants to move. It's energy in motion. So when I sweat it out first thing in the morning, I'm allowing whatever suppressed emotion that I have within my body that's stuck there, I'm letting it out. Okay, I'm letting it move out. Like literally when you shake it out, you feel good instantly. It's called priming. Tony Robbins uses it. It's priming, where he jumps up and down and shakes it all out, right? Because he's like, I'm getting all of that locked up, pent up energy out of my body because it wants to move. And because humans don't really move much, we have all of this trapped emotion in our body. All right, that's why you have the people that are doing, the hippies that are ecstatically dancing and moving and doing yoga and all of these things, because they know that energy gets trapped in our bodies, all right? And we want to release it. So sweating it out, some people cry it out, some people sweat it out, some people whatever, but regardless, your body wants to move. We are supposed to move. We are designed to move the energy through us. It's your chi, it's your chakras, it's all of these, like Kundalini talks about it as well. Like there's so much evidence to suggest that energy gets trapped and the only way to release it is through movement. Okay. Now, intentional movement is better than just movement. Okay. So if I'm thinking I'm doing this movement in order to intentionally sweat it out to release, obviously intention and focused movement is better. And that's why certain yoga practices are really effective, because they know the right movements and through their meridian points and all of that to allow energy to flow in the right place. But you don't have to know all of those things to be like, you know what, I feel good after a walk, right? You don't need to know any of that to know that, when you exercise, you never regret it, right? I never say I shouldn't have exercised this morning. I never say that. I'm always just like, I'm so happy I did. Okay. I never say when I've gone for a swim in the ocean that was a bad idea. I don't say that. I love the movement. When I dance with my friends at a club or at a bar or at an event in Bali, like every Sunday we would go to Ecstatic dance with all the hippies, right? I never said that was a bad idea. I loved it because I felt freer. I felt lighter because I'm moving the body. And the thing is about life is that it's holistic. Yeah. I can eat like an angel, but if I'm not moving my body, I'm still trapping harbored thoughts because I am human. Naturally, I'm going to have biases and judgments and fears and guilt and all of these things. I need to be able to move through that. I need to drink lots of water. What are you drinking? Or how are you allowing your body to cleanse? What's being left in your gut? What am I speaking? What am I consuming? Like I've stopped watching TV, and even I rarely listen to music as well, because I know there's so much predictive programming. There's programming. They're trying to tell me how to think and feel, as opposed to me connecting to my intuition to do that. I'm not saying you need to stop watching TV, but I'm saying to be more mindful. Okay. Mindfulness is key. What am I eating? How am I moving my body? What am I consuming? What am I saying? Who are the people I surround myself with? It's holistic. There is not one way to be enlightened or spiritual. It's I need to try a bit of everything. And there is no one of my quotes that I love about veganism, probably my favorite. We don't need 3 perfect vegans. We need billions of imperfect vegans. And I love that quote because it reminds me that I don't need to be perfect spiritual teacher, right? I need to be imperfect in the best possible way. Okay. And I need everyone to be imperfect. I need you to do a little bit. Just imagine that, like, think of when you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth. If that toothpaste has fluoride in it, all of a sudden I've put chemicals in my body. Okay. I then have a shower. I probably use a body wash. If that's not natural, then I've got all of these chemicals that my body's absorbing. Then I use shampoo. Again, I dye my hair. Chemicals. Then I moisturize my body. Now, I personally use coconut oil, but let's say I use a moisturizer filled with chemicals. And then I spray perfume on. And then I clean my house and wash my dishes with all these chemicals. And then I'm eating toxic food. And then I'm not moving my body. Think about how much your body's absorbing. All I need to do is be like, you know what? I can make a small change. I can buy toothpaste with no fluoride. I can make my own deodorant. I can use coconut oil or olive oil to moisturize my body. It's pure, right? Like, it's beautiful.
And a lot of I love how the benefits you've just mentioned, even just the first 4 before I cut you off, they're all ways that you can not only do better for your body, but it's actually cheaper and easier and zero waste. So you don't have to run to the shops every 20 seconds to buy a 20 milliliter little bottle of moisturizer when you can get like half a liter to a liter of coconut oil. For freaking everything. Make your shampoos, make your moisturizers, make your deo all out of the one thing. You're not going to smell like coconuts because you can use other things like oils and stuff. But
exactly.
Continue with this. I just wanted to interrupt there and just say that.
No, I'm glad you said that, because that's the thing as well, is see when I'm listening to my intuition, how it not only benefits me, it benefits the planet, right? Like, isn't that funny?
What?
Okay, so all of a sudden, what? I know what. So then I decide for breakfast, I'm not going to eat plain white toast with Nutella or the vegan version of Nutella. Instead, I'm going to eat a fruit bowl or a smoothie bowl and fill it with micronutrients. And I don't care about the calories. I care about the nutrients, and I care about how it's nourishing my body, okay? And all of a sudden, I feel good that I ate that meal, all right? And I'm high vibration. And now I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to release some of that energy. And then I'm going to do my enema, and I'm going to release some more toxins. And then I'm going to dance a bit because I want to shimmy, right? And I want to feel good, and I want to feel the energy. And then I'm going to meditate for a little while because, you know what? I want to connect. I want to reconnect to self. And now I'm going to read a book, and now I'm going to do some work that feels good to me. And then I'm going to call my friends because I miss them, and I want to express to them how much I love them, right? And then I'm going to eat another nourishing meal. And then I'm not going to wash my hands with some disgusting filled with chemical soap. I'm going to use natural products, right? Like cleanser. If you want to use skincare, the best cleanser in the world is an oil cleanser, right? You literally use oil, whether it be coconut oil or olive oil. You try to use an oil that isn't too thick, okay? Because I don't know the exact scientific terminology, but the molecules are thicker and then it's sort of absorbed by the thing, right? The skin. Cleanse your face for around 10 minutes. All of the blackheads will just be removed, okay? And then what I do is I use exactly what you said, essential oils. I use pure essential oils that last me months. These little bottles last months, and I refill them, okay? So again, it's that zero waste mentality as well. And I use that on my body to smell good and feel good and connect, because lavender oil on certain points on the body allows me to open up my chakras, which again allows for that chi flow, that natural flow. Like nature, the last week I have been in my house too much and on social media too much. I deleted the apps, and today I'm like, after my call with Tom, I'm not working. I'm going to go for a drive to some nature, whether it be the beach or the lake or the whatever, and I'm going to go for a walk in nature because I know that it will make me feel good.
Yeah, and thank goodness that's going to get a lot easier now that we can leave the house legally.
Yes.
Yes. There's one thing that you touched on, and I'm so glad you mentioned all those things during your day, because I was going to say, what can we do in a day that helps us align our values, feel good, which you mentioned, using natural products, eating meals, expressing gratitude to friends, all that thing. You do something else nice and then you feel nice. Win-win. But I wanted to touch on ecstatic dance because this is actually one of my huge passions in life, and I love dancing around in my room. And it sounds super corny because a lot of people haven't heard of it. I think I heard of it through Aubrey Marcus or maybe some random YouTube video. And for those that don't know, ecstatic dance is just basically just moving your body, like just doing something without judgment for yourself. And it's something that's actually super hard. Like, and it's not like, you know, when you go to the club and I'm just going to talk from a guy's perspective, you go there to try to pick up and you're just standing, you're trying to look cool. It's not about that. Like, you're moving in ways you didn't even know your body could move. Like, you're doing the worm standing up, like you're moving your head, you're just rolling on the floor. You could do whatever you want. And I want to hear your take on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have no, I don't think, judgment for music. The only one thing where I kind of draw my line, I guess my guide is use music that you love, but I'd never do it to like hip hop or like that kind of music, only because the terminology is really derogatory. So when they're talking about women or you know, using the N-word and things like this, I just think that's not what it's about. So for me, that could be, I like house music, deep house music. I love the deep house because it's got the beat. I also listen to a lot of like African drum and dance, like just get the bongos going, makes you feel funky. It could be folk, country music. It could be any sort of EDM. Rock, I generally stick away to because I think that not that great. But I know people that love rock and they jam it and they feel amazing afterwards. It's like a workout basically. How do you incorporate ecstatic dance into your life?
When I was in Bali, as I said, I did a lot of ecstatic dance. There were lots of ecstatic dance parties, and we would go every Sunday to ecstatic dance, and I loved it so much, right? I need a balance, okay? I don't need to just do ecstatic dance because I'm very aware that I'm not just living in the clouds. I'm very much so on the earth plane. So sometimes I need the hip hop or the whatever. But when you're doing ecstatic dance, you said a key word, and it's judgment. One of my favorite quotes is that the only difference between a flower and a weed is judgment, okay? And that quote has saved me so many times, because when you are ecstatically dancing, it is not about anyone but you. It is only about the energy moving through your body, and your body will tell you how it wants to move. All of a sudden it wants to wave this hand. All of a sudden it wants to jump. All of a sudden it wants to swing, right? It will tell you how it wants to move. Now, when it comes to music, I am very mindful about what I consume. Binaural beats, okay? And the good thing about going to events is that they have a specialized DJ who's playing all the right type of music, okay? 532 hertz frequency and 428, 400.
Isn't it 432?
432.
Yeah.
432, 528. Yeah. 432, 528. Both of those hertz frequencies are the best for music consumption because they vibrate at a very similar level to well-being, all right, to our natural state of being, which means that they're the best. And then through a DJ, they amp it up a bit. You can go on YouTube and you can literally type in a 432 hertz ecstatic dance music, right? And all of a sudden you'll get all of these playlists. I also try to minimize words. I don't want to hear words when I'm ecstatically dancing because I don't want my conscious mind to wake up and attach or identify with something that's then programming, okay? I want to be a clear channel. So I want just the beat, all right? I want my body to feel the beat. I love tribal music, all right, when I'm doing ecstatic dance. Like music. Going back to roots. So I know, like that deep tribe, right? It connects me to the ancestors. And although they may not be my direct lineage, that doesn't mean I'm not connected to them because I'm connected to everyone, right? So tribal music, and that's how they use that, as you said, that African beat of the drums and, you know, the native Indians and all of these people who had all of this very special tribal music. I think that that's an amplifying experience, okay? So dancing with no judgment. And often, most of the time, your eyes are closed. Okay, you're just closing your eyes and you're just moving. Sometimes you'll open and you'll connect and whatever, but it actually doesn't matter what anyone else is doing, what they're wearing, what they look like. It does not matter because at the end, you end up a sweaty mess anyway. And it's all about the movement. And I'm not saying that people have to do it all the time, but if you are feeling stuck right now, if you have something that you just can't shake, find the music, turn on some tribal music and move your damn body, right? Like literally shake it out, move it in any which way. And remember, there is no judgment. Often we're very afraid to move in front of people because we feel we're not doing it right, okay? But with ecstatic dancing, it's not about that. There is no right or wrong. there is no right or wrong. You have some people doing the touch, you know, that beautiful touch movement with another person, right? Like, it's beautiful. And then you have other people shaking and screaming, and then you have other people on the ground banging. There is no right or wrong way to do it. It's self-expression, right? And we have this disconnect with self-expression. We're so afraid to say what we want to say, especially now. You're witnessing a lot that's happening online. And people are afraid, and they're jumping on conversations because they're fearful to self-express. All right. So what they do is they start to take on the voice of another. That is denying your intuition. Because I promise you, when you connect to your intuition will not spread hate. Your intuition will not ever deny someone their voice. Your intuition will not be filled with prejudice and hate and, you know, any negative vibration. Your intuition is love, period. So tap into that and let that self-express, and do not be afraid. Not everyone will agree. Not everyone will be on board. Some people will look at you ecstatically dancing and be like, that person's an idiot. Do it anyway. Do it anyway.
And it'll be hard. It'll be really hard. I think I've been doing ecstatic dance for like a year now, and I still find it very difficult to even like do it in front of my partner. And I do it sometimes, but what helped me really start, which could help a lot of people, is I locked the door. I closed all the windows. There is no chance anyone's getting in here without me like really hearing a bang. And that allows you to really close your eyes and then go with the flow, because, you know, no one can be here judging me besides myself. And then you can have that self-awareness of talking, okay, why am I judging myself? And eventually and that could make your dance moves look really good, because you get used to it. You don't practice dance enough. It's a really nice form of art. We should be doing something creative every day. But we are stretching on the hour mark. Finishing up here, there's two things. One, is there anything that you'd like to leave us with that we haven't touched on that you would have loved to touch on?
Honestly, I think that this conversation was beautiful and organic, and I love Tom's energy. Like, I love you so much. I think that you're such a bright light. I remember the first time I met you, and I said that you are just a light beam, and I love it so much. I really feel that this conversation was exactly what it needed to be. The only thing I would say is that none of this means anything. Inspiring conversation is not useful unless you take tangible steps and actions. Okay, so moving forward, what can you do? You can implement some of the things we said: high vibrational foods, movement, less toxic product and chemicals and things like that. You can tap in. Meditation is key. And I know you talked about it in other conversations recently, but meditation is your number one way to connect to self. And the thing is also the judgment. Offer no judgment. You're not going to get it right every time. Sometimes I meditate and my internal chatter is so loud that I can't deny it, right? And it wants the floor.
Hey, listen to me.
Exactly. It's like me. Do you remember what that person did to you? Do you remember how you thought? Do you remember how you reacted? Do you remember? Right? It wants the floor. That's okay. I'm not perfect all the time, but I try regardless. Start with micro meditations, 60 seconds to 5-minute meditations. Once you're good at that, then stretch them. All right. 10-minute meditations. There are guided meditations. I have some on my YouTube channel, right? Where you can listen to someone else take you through the journey. Then you have your 15-minute meditations. My favorite mark is a 15-minute to 20-minute meditation. That's my favorite. But then sometimes I decide I'm going to do an hour and 15 minutes today, right? And I do an hour and 15 minutes. That is long. So wow. Whatever feels good to you. I remember I did a Dr. Joe Dispenza challenge once where for 60 days I did an hour and 15 minutes every single day. And that was hard because it's like, how do I find the time? And as soon as you say, how do I find the time? It's even more reason to find the time. Okay. So, it's meditation is key. Remember as well, be forgiving on yourself. You're not going to be perfect at everything. Like the spiritual journey is not a perfect journey. And it's not about me being the perfect person and doing all the perfect things. I'm going to get it wrong sometimes. Like I am going to fuck it up, right? Period. That's just the way it is. But I know that I can always do better and try again and reconnect. Just because you have one, it's like that, that quote about money, they say that if you have $50,000 and you drop $5, are you then going to not be grateful that you have the rest of the money, right? It's the same thing, that I'm going to make a mistake one time. That doesn't take away everything that I've done. That doesn't take away my effort. That
It's
doesn't take
nice. Never
away
heard of that
my
quote.
love
It's
for
good one.
self, right? And it's okay. It's okay to get it wrong sometimes, and it doesn't matter. And we need to offer less judgment. And when you start offering less judgment for self, you will offer so much less judgment on the world, on others. Okay. I feel that, especially with the dialogue that goes online, whether it be the vegan community, whether it be activists, whether it be anything, people are bullies. Okay. You have so much judgment going on that you're not doing it good enough, that you should be better. That is not alignment. That is not love. That is not awareness. That is separation. That is not connection. That is not divine oneness. Divine oneness sees me within you. I look at Tom, and if I'm judging anything about Tom, that is my own judgment. That is about me. That is not about Tom. Okay? So it's the fact that you will start to realize that all of these things piece together. Now, I get a lot of people say to me, okay, G, I listened to your podcast, or I did this, or I did that. I listened to your work. I don't know where to start. Okay, that is the main question. And I will always say this: choose one book, choose one teaching, choose one practice, and start there. And when that feels good, and when that starts to feel like a natural, logical movement, then move to the next. You don't need to do everything all at once. I don't need you tomorrow to start eating organic, and, or organic is questionable too, but right, to start eating vegan and high vibrational foods and less toxicity and meditating and running. And I don't need you to do all of that tomorrow. I just need you to do one thing. Do one thing tomorrow, and do one thing consistently for 10 days. And then when you do it consistently for 10 days, then do it consistently for 30 days. And when that feels good, now introduce something else, right? One step at a time. Like our movement. Remember the scale that we moved up? That's life. Scale one step at a time. Everyone is in a hurry, okay? Like even this whole, I remember I read a quote that someone said that to Warren Buffett, that his
Warren Buffett.
investment.
Buffett.
Is it Buffett? I always call him.
It's spelt like buffet, and I love that. I'm now gonna always say Warren Buffett. It's French. Love that. Cool. Thank you for blessing me with that.
Buffett. You're welcome. You're welcome, everyone. All right. All right. Warren Buffett. So someone said to him that your investment strategy is perfect. I don't know why more people don't do it. And he replied, it's because no one wants to get rich slowly. And I loved it, because I was like, that is so true. Everyone spends years trying to get rich quick, when really we can all get rich slowly, right? And it's the same with our spiritual practice. Everyone wants to be spiritually enlightened and awakened tomorrow. Don't do that. Just do it slowly, one step at a time. I didn't get to where I am being this spiritual teacher overnight. It took me years of investment. Like people always say, gee, they try to take on my voice at times too, right? Like say what I say. You haven't had the years of exposure and experience I have, and the teachings and the learnings. And I don't want you to be a replica of me, right? That's not useful to you. I want you to be you. And I want you to teach something that feels innately divine to you. And I want you to self-express, all right? My way isn't the only way. My way is one possible way. And for some watching, it'll resonate deeply, and for others it won't. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't still tap into your own intuition to be guided, right? So your way is the way, because your way is how you perceive reality, not the way I perceive it. You will never see through my eyes, all right? As closely connected to me as you are, you will never see through my eyes, because my life experience is personal to me, right? So I need everyone to see through their eyes. And when we all start doing that collectively, we will then see through one eye, okay? And that is the divine eye.
Very good.
That's what I would say.
And if we want to connect with you on a deeper level, where can we find you?
You can find me on all the socials. My social handle on Instagram is GLMGEE, plus my website. I have so many free resources. I have a 10-module free course called The Soul Contract, which basically takes you through the wheel of life, all the different pieces of the pie, and it's free to access, so you can access it there and you can start to learn about this stuff. It's quite introductory, and yet it's really good because it gives you that holistic perspective on how to introduce spirituality into all areas of your life. I have free resources, meditations, other free challenges and courses, and blogs and YouTube and all of the things. So if you go onto my website, you can find all the links. but even on my Instagram, I'm constantly sharing things as well. So
Perfect.
thank
And I'll
you,
leave
Tom.
everything
So
underneath as well, just so
beautiful.
it's so easy to find for everyone. But thank you very much for joining me this
You're
afternoon. I hope you have an
welcome.
amazing weekend, and we will touch base.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to the end of the episode. Thank you for listening the whole way through. That really means a lot. If you've come all the way here to do something amazing, you could share this episode to a friend, maybe if you got some value out of it. Otherwise, you can go ahead and leave a rating. You can follow us on Instagram at How to Travel Vegan, or even TikTok. Everyone's on that, and so are we. Now, you can also follow G on all the different platforms. I'll link all the things that she's mainly on in the show notes, including her website, where you can find some of the resources that we're speaking about completely free of charge. But I hope you did enjoy the ride and got some value out of today's episode, even if it's one little thing. That's all I kind of look for when I listen to the podcast that I do. Now, the next episode, which will be released in 2 weeks, with Jansen Andre. Now, Jansen is the beautiful mind behind the Vegan Shack in Richmond in Melbourne with his lovely mother. And actually, the reason I'm posting it a bit later, which I actually recorded it before G's episode, is because he's actually doing a half Ironman on, I guess, in 3 days' time from when I'm recording this, which I'm going with him to record the process. I'm seeing how he'll do, basically, because the goal is under 6 hours, which we'll mention on the podcast with Jansen. And we talked a lot about plant-based nutrition, running Vegan Shack, and even being really a vegan Ironman and what that could mean and how to really get the best out of your body. But that is all from me today. I hope everyone is safe, and I hope you are keeping warm if it's cold where you are, and keeping nice and sunny and safe if it's hot where you are. Much love. Peace.